This podcast contains explicit language. Hello, and welcome to 424 Recording, a podcast about home studio and lo-fi recording. We're talking all things music, especially in the punk, grunge, bedroom, and indie rock genres. This is Mike from 424recording.com, and I'm pleased to be joined today by my buddy Tim Lampasona. He's an entomologist and all-around a creative, dope-ass guy. So figured I'd have him on the pod and do a little chit chat. We talked a lot about creative ambitions and hobbies and parallels of meditation and creation, and also origins of band names and a whole lot more. So here's my conversation with Tim Lampasona. How come you never really were in, or like, did you never pursue music at all, or did you ever try to pursue music? Because I feel like you know a lot of bands and I don't know a lot about music, but it's interesting to me that you've never, aside from the project that we've been in together, really pursued anything like music wise.
Um, that's a really good question, dude. I love music and I love listening to it and finding new albums and I like playing it a lot too, but for some reason I just never had the drive to um turn that into anything bigger than just sort of like a hobbyist level, like playing when I can and with people who I kind of vibe with, but I don't think that I've got enough um sort of songwriting instincts
Hmm.
really to go all the way with that. I always preferred like helping people write songs and doing lyrics and thinking of different parts to add. I was never really any good at starting from scratch and like having finishing a song by myself.
So it sounds like
And I
you
guess that
you had pursued doing that at some point then, because you obviously like
yeah, I've written some like some a couple random like acoustic, songs, but they never really inspired me in any kind of meaningful way, you know?
yeah.
It was always just kind of like an idle like thing to do. So I always had more fun working with other people's stuff and like kind of helping them refine it and then playing together, which was like really the main thrust of it.
That's super interesting, man. Like I was thinking about that when I wanted to have you on the pod. Thanks for being on the pod and
Oh yeah, yeah. Friend of the pod over here.
friend of the pod, friend of the channel. Uh, and it's like I was thinking about that just because I was thinking about my own experience with music too, and I don't know. I'm not really sure because like I feel like although I did try pursuing it or have been pursuing it, I guess on a professional level, I'm not even really sure what's professional or amateur today. It just seems like you can be your own cheerleader, and that's like a big thing that I always try to push to people as well. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because I feel like you're such a super creative guy, but it's interesting that you're saying that you never really. I don't know. I don't know, man. That was something I always wanted to ask you.
I feel like when it came down to it, like if you were to ask me like what would you music wise, would you rather uh be in a project where you're like writing music uh constantly, or would you rather be part of a creative process with a couple other people and not really the main focus of it? I'd pick the latter every time.
Yeah, yeah,
I never had any interest in being like a front man or being a person who like poured my emotion out into the writing process. I'd always was more into just sort of like it's gonna sound weird, but like the social aspect of
oh,
playing music.
yeah. I was almost gonna say. I thought you were gonna say like the support aspect because that was kind of how I got started too. Was playing like bass. That's usually not a forefront instrument, and that's kind of how I always used to feel about the creative process too. Was I really enjoyed hanging out with my friends and being in a band with my friends, and I don't know. I've just been really been examining and trying to do some deeper thinking as to like how did I get into music and like why have I like thrown so much of my time and resource into it. I mean, I just like creating stuff, but um, yeah, I feel like that's I feel like if music wasn't such a thing that everybody could do today, like I feel like in a different era, I may have been like a music journalist.
Oh, that would have been pretty cool, actually.
But I feel like in today's world, it's like anybody can be a musician. Like if you have a love or like a passion for music or any type of activity, creative activity, the internet makes it such that you can pursue that interest, and I think that's
Mhm.
really awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I learned, I took a few lessons when I was young, um, in guitar, but ever since then, I learned everything myself, and I think that's all technology aided. You know, you can watch
Oh
videos
yeah,
about how to play any instrument and kind of teach yourself anything.
yeah,
Um, and that's how I learned ukulele and banjo and everything else. And
yeah. See,
ever since
that's
then,
that's what I mean. Like you have like a you obviously know how to play like multiple instruments. You can sing really well, and you have like obviously great taste in music. So it's just
oh,
funny.
thank you.
So I find it super interesting that um but I mean you said that too in the past that you also just have so many different hobbies, right? You kind of like jump from hobbies or like pivot into
Yeah,
different hobbies.
it's too many, honestly, but I'm not going to complain about it. But I go from, it's not even like I don't even like get bored of things. There are certain times when I get obsessed with something and then I go hard for a period of, several weeks to several months, and then I switch to something else just because I want a little bit of variety. And I'll have periods where all I do is play music for weeks and weeks and don't do anything else. And then sometimes I just want to paint, and then I'll paint for like 6 months. You know what I mean? And I won't touch an instrument.
Yeah, and what's like the underlying drive for that? I mean, you said it was a social aspect, but obviously those kind of things that you're like painting, that's kind of a solo activity. Like when you're doing that, is it just like a creative release? Like what's your goal in painting for six
Well,
months?
it's both for this is true for playing instrument, because 99% of the time when I play an instrument, I'm playing by myself. You know what I mean? It's the same. It's just a weird meditative practice. Like
Hmm.
when I'm painting something, I start painting and then I kind of zone out into like a weird, I don't know, pseudo trance state, and then a few hours later I kind of snap to it and I'm just like, oh shit, I finished this thing. It's like basically done already.
Right. So it's more of a I mean, I don't want to say escape because that's almost seems like has a negative connotation, but you're saying it's like almost like tuning your brain or like you said meditating. That's pretty sick, man.
Yeah, it basically is, because it is like an emptying of like any kind of distracting thought. It's like, the big thing I'm thinking about is like what would be a good highlight color.
Yeah, yeah. I That's funny, man. I think that's too. Now that I think about it more, that's probably also a big reason that I enjoy music too. Because I could like I was working on some songs today, and it is totally. I just forget about all the stuff I'm worrying about and all the fears I have and things like that, and I just fall deeply into just creativity mode, and I like forget to eat and will not do anything else. And now that you mention it, I think that because this seems to come up a lot. This came up last week with Brian, and then I think the week before that with Bo, and I think with Sean and Mary too. We kind of touched upon just like quieting your mind. And Brian and I
Mhm.
kept saying like coming back to the center because he's been dealing with some stuff, and it's interesting because I feel like the common thread talking to everybody these past few weeks has been something similar to this meditative state of creating things and being creative.
Well, I think that that's a pretty important part of life that doesn't really get, people talk about doing stuff for the sake of self-improvement and for the sake of like, people act like learning things has to have an award attached to it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, oh,
yeah.
you got your achievement for learning how to,
You leveled
uh
up.
exactly, you leveled up because you learned how to draw or you learned how to play the song or whatever. But the the end goal isn't always as important as just the act of doing something. That's not really Zen. That's more like Taoism, right? Where just like the act of doing something itself is worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the classic. It's not about the destination, but the journey. Like you got to enjoy. Like being on the journey is the destination. Like that
Yeah, and
is.
it's, I mean, that's something that's true about really any kind of any artistic sort of, practice or movement in any direction. And generally speaking, it's never a waste of time to do that stuff, because it's like doing it is intrinsically rewarding.
Right. Yeah. I feel like things just get so wrapped up in today's world
But
because of, obviously like money and things like that. So it's like navigating this line between, oh, well, I'm pretty good at this particular thing. And then everybody around you or like so many external things will seem, oh, well, if you're good at that, then why don't you monetize that?
yeah, well, I don't want to. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
I like doing it for the sake of doing it.
I know, me too, man. I feel like that's where things can get so cloudy because it feels like you kind of lose your sense of purpose and it becomes polluted with this other idea that's not really related to it. And you hear so many times with certain like entrepreneurs and creative people that, uh, and I believe that a lot of these people are genuine. And when they say like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about that kind of thing. I just thought about, making the best product I could, making what I wanted to hear, making a song that didn't exist. And, I don't know, because it doesn't seem like everybody has that goal. And I know that you don't have that goal at all. That's why I wanted to talk to you about that because it's like, I find that to be so interesting. I think I've just gotten so wrapped up in things and thinking that it was a means to an end, even though it was like, I don't know, something I enjoyed and like writing
Well,
music.
you've been writing like crazy recently. You've got like 5 new songs just
Oh yeah,
dropped,
and you did all the artwork for him too.
which is another thing that I like to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I mean, you've done all the artwork for all the Be Cool Cowboy stuff thus far, man. Thank you so
Have I
much.
done all of it?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my God, that rules. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I was looking in the antique store the other day because the me and the machine. You remember we went to the in New
Hmm.
Paltz. There's like a couple antique stores, and they have like all these old postcards and pictures. So Tim and I had gone there, and we were looking for. We got like a bunch of those old vacation-y postcards, and then you like cut them all up and put them in Photoshop and made that awesome artwork for me and the machine.
Hmm.
And I went there this weekend, and I was looking for more um, artwork for the new one. I thought that could be a fun project to revisit the collage kind of deal. I
Oh
can't
yeah, totally.
I can't
Well,
find
I've
anything on
got
topic. What do you
on
got
my
back
wall
there?
right now, I have the that crazy picture of that machinery
Oh
that we found.
man, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I hung on to that because it's like uh, one of the coolest photos I've ever seen, and I don't know what it's of, and it looks like a painting. It's like so heavily sort of lit, but it's like really awesome. So I want to use that for something in the future.
Yeah, and it's like it's like a picture from what year would you even say that's from? It looks like it's
I don't
old.
know. It looks maybe
50s?
mid 60s,
Oh, okay.
early late 50s, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I was there and I don't know, man. Like I guess you can't force it. I feel like when we did that it was super I feel like it's hard to recreate certain creative experiences because there was just something about us when we went and we're like searching for that. It just seems so
Well,
serendipitous.
that's why I never used those. I have a lot more of those postcards, but I haven't used them for anything else because it just like it was meant for that album, and that album sounds like something that you would have postcards for.
Right. So it just
Like
kind
the
of
reason I picked them is because I've been listening to that album for like I don't know, that I'd listened to it like straight through like 100 times, and I was just thinking about it, and I was like, it gives me this weird nostalgic feeling that you get when you look at postcards. So,
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I remember like I feel like that's an awesome way to go about creating the art. That's why like I'm gonna send you those new because like I've been redoing those 5 songs and I'm gonna send them to you and then you can hopefully do your process again and come up with gold for it.
well, please do. I mean, that's what I do. I kind of do the same thing when I'm uh, working on any kind of art. Is like pair it with some kind of music because usually they will help each other out. Like I've gotten to the point now where I this isn't art, it's work, but I can't write scientific articles anymore unless I'm listening to post rock or some other like non no vocals instrumental
Yeah,
music.
yeah. That's a great
And
tip, man. I
but
gotta start doing that.
oh my God, it just like now the minute I hear um L1011 or whatever, I just like my brain is just like ready to write something technical.
Yeah, so what do you do? You want to fill everybody in on your what are you doing right now?
I'm working on my PhD. I'm an entomologist. Well, soon to be. I guess I am, but I'm not a doctor yet. So I'm working on my research right now in entomology, and I study insect behavior. And my current project is I'll make this as non-boring as possible. Um, exploring the behavior differences between uh, two subpopulations of a small native beetle. It's a pest of fruit, and in the mid-Atlantic region where I'm studying, um, it's known to attack blueberries, which it doesn't really do in the rest of the
Oh,
country.
I
It's
remember
native,
you telling me this. Yeah.
yeah, it's native to the U.S. This insect. They're actually very cool looking. It's a weevil, so it's got one of those long snouts. Um, but that behavior is unique to this region. No one knows why, and it's been hypothesized by other people just off the cuff that it may be a host race, which is not quite a new species, but when two subgroups of the same species begin feeding on different hosts, they become reproductively isolated and they start to change their behavior. And eventually, you might get a new species, but in the meantime, they are diverging. So right
Whoa,
now, we're trying to.
whoa, whoa. So wait a second. So what are you gonna name it then?
Oh, I mean, listen, there's. It's
So there's
so
gonna be
far away.
a weevil with your name on it, pretty
No,
much.
no, 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 no. Do not get my hopes up. Well, best
You
case
heard it here
scenario,
first, folks.
best case scenario, we'll be able to strongly suggest that there's a beginning of formation happening of a host race, which is not quite a species, but those those behavioral differences can mean a lot, especially in agricultural terms, because if this is a unique population that's specially adapted to attack berries, that has big implications, and for management, for food safety. Uh, but from an evolutionary point of view, it could mean a lot about the formation of new species that don't require geographic separation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's
called sympatric speciation when an animal diverges into two species in the same region.
what is it called?
Sympatric
Oh, St. Patrick.
speciation.
I thought you
And
said
if you
St. Patrick for a second.
and if they're in different regions, it's called allopatric.
Whoa, man. We're getting like a full. See, this is why I always say Tim is the smartest guy I know, you know?
If you want to learn about beetle host race formation, I am your man.
This is the guy. This is the guy. Where can people find you online, Tim?
Find me on Instagram at Timbo417.
Nice, man. So send
I
Tim all
post
your,
bugs.
yeah, bug
I post
pictures.
I post art. I post food that I make. Um, and send me any weird bugs you find, and I'll be happy to identify them for you.
You got a bug, man. That's what this is all about.
When people find out about that, there's two possible things that happen. One is they're grossed out, and it's like, oh, bugs, really? Or two, they get insanely excited, and then they have about 100 bugs that they've seen around their house that they want me to identify for them.
I
Those are the
think
only two.
I based on the listeners of the podcast and people from the channel, I think you're gonna have thousands and thousands of bug pictures sent your way.
That's fine by me, dude. Because that's the thing
Keeps
is
you
like
sharp.
I really am only working on this one small group. So any diversity is good because I still have to teach classes in the fall, and I don't want to get out of practice.
Damn, man. What is it about like the post rock that gets you in the mood to write for this kind of stuff? Is it just like it like distracts your brain to a different level, or
It serves as like a white noise that doesn't make me like sleepy. In that it's got things going on and it's layered, but it's never particularly distracting. Like there's no words usually, and there's no very like the song structure is very kind of flowy and fluid, and it doesn't make me think like, oh, here's a chorus, oh, here's a verse. It just kind of all kind of blends into each other, and it makes me kind of write like a stream of consciousness almost. It's weird.
that's awesome. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people too I've talked to over the years, and I got to start doing this. For some reason, I don't do that, but because I tend to listen to a lot of music that has lyrics, but then that's the perfect solution is if you listen to stuff that is lyricless. A lot of people seem to get inspired by listening to music while they're working on things. And Brian and I were talking about music when you're working out and how that's scientifically proven to enhance your workouts and push you further. And it seems like there's a lot of cool science and things that go on with your brain with music. And I think that
Oh yeah, absolutely. It affects like it changes the way that you do everything.
yeah, it's so cool, man. I never really thought too much about that aspect of it because like now that I've been thinking about it for me, like and why I like working on it because yeah, it just seems to like you were saying it puts you into that like meditative trance slash like I feel like even performing live, like the best performances are always the ones where that happens. Like you kind of go into autopilot, and it's almost as if you have like an out of body experience, or you're just so in the moment that you're not even there anymore. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, the less active thinking you're doing. And actually, I have a plug. Um, the best album, in my opinion, to get things
Here we
to
go.
to write things or even to read and to remember things is the album We've Been Talking, and the band is called Enemies, and they're
Oh
so
yeah,
freaking good.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, because enemies. You what do you think? Toe, right? That's like one of your
Oh,
main
I love,
jams.
yeah. Toe is an awesome Japanese post rock band. It's spelled just like the body part toe, and they've got a record label that has at least one American band on it, and that band is Enemies, and they are also great. Very very similar um, kind of vibe, but yeah, they're fantastic.
That's awesome, man. And then, have you ever heard of I want to get this guy on the pod, West Meets West.
No,
They're like a post rock band. It's my buddies in it, and they're out of somewhere in the mid Hudson Valley. And well, I guess they're all over. Like, but they've had like a couple bigger songs on Spotify, and he teaches down at oh man, I'm like Mercy College, and I gotta get him on here because this is like would be a perfect segue into that conversation. But I think you would really dig them. I got a record of theirs. I wanna get your way the next time I see
yeah.
you.
Well, I just followed them on Spotify now, so
Oh,
I'll keep
perfect,
up with
dude.
them. I'll keep up with them now.
Perfect. Yeah. So,
Actually, speaking of people we know, Brian's music is also very good
oh
to study
yeah,
too, and I
yeah,
do
yeah.
that often.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I was talking with Brian last week about his new record and things that he's been making, and it's so funny, man. It's like such a similar thread, and like I'm just starting to notice a lot of similar threads in I've only had I don't know 4 or 5 interviews, and now it's funny, man. It's so funny to see talking to all these creative people and um, it's interesting, man. Like I'm just starting to see these threads. Maybe I'll put a book together or ebook or something with
Yeah,
all the
well, get
similar ideas.
everybody's opinions.
Hell yeah,
You gotta you gotta use all these creative types while they're hanging out.
yeah, man. That's why I like because you and I feel like we had done that one episode of our podcast that we forgot what it was.
Oh
We're
yeah, the uh the definitions podcast.
yeah. That was cool. What the premise was like asking. I
The
think it was
premise was finding annoying words that were becoming popular and then dissecting them and making fun of them.
yes, yeah. We should do
And we
that.
made fun of which we could actually do it right now if you want,
Let's
because I
do it.
remember that we talked about the cloud, which is my least favorite
Oh, that's right.
um
Yes.
my least favorite expression slash tech word, because it
It's the
it doesn't
worst.
make any sense. It's A cloud is the least secure thing I can think of. It's not stable, it's not solid, and there's no stability to it. And when it gets full, a cloud just falls apart and leaks its contents everywhere.
Right.
You can't like collect things from a cloud at will. So it fails on every metaphorical level. It should be called the vault or the safe or the filing cabinet. I don't know, but cloud sucks. It doesn't make any
It
sense.
doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I remember this now. It's all coming back to me. We had like a half
Yeah.
hour
Well,
discussion on this.
I
Like,
still am. I remember it all because I'm still mad about it. Like the
right.
cloud is the worst.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't even understand what it is. I mean, I guess that goes to show how little I know about Amazon. But
Well, that's the thing. Like, I guess like the Apple, like, has any person in the world figured out how to log on to their iCloud?
no, it's the most annoying thing. What I'm trying to figure out is
It's
how to make my iPhone
completely
stop asking me to log into it.
it's completely arcane. It's like some freaking just Lovecraftian ritual. No one knows how to do it. If you were to try, you'd probably die. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I also feel like it's also this strange money grab where it's like somebody like our parents, they wouldn't understand what it is exactly and be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I definitely need this for, you know, 5, 10, $20 a month." Like, and they'll never wind up using it, but they'll just keep hitting yes, like in that episode of The Simpsons where Homer figures out he can keep hitting Y to make things go away.
Well, far be it from me to sing the praises of any of these ghoulish tech companies, but Apple is for some reason charging people like $5 a month to do what Google does for free right now, which is just have storage space online, right? Because that's what the
Yeah.
iCloud is. And it's like, oh, your iCloud is full at 5 GB, so you can pay $5 a month or whatever to expand it. But or you could just download the Google Photos app and it's all free. And the only downside is that Google will look at all those photos and probably hire an assassin to kill you at some point. But frankly, free storage.
Yeah, I mean, the what is it? The pros outweigh the cons.
Exactly. Free storage versus not like the thing is Apple's looking at all your photos too, so you may as well just go with one of them. They're all the same. One of them's free
Yeah,
though.
that's the thing that scares me the most is like all the data all these companies have. I think this is something we've talked about too, and it's like unprecedented the amount of. Oh, I think I touched upon this in one of the vlogs I did, where it's like there's so much data, and it's like this has never happened in the course of human history, and now it's all just being used to sell you shit better.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing about it, right? I mean, it's like the supervillain plot to collect everyone's personal information, and the whole world is on a bunch of data files in the Mojave Desert or whatever,
Yeah,
and they could be used to do pretty much anything. But what they are used to do is sell you Blue Apron subscriptions and like whatever stupid mattress is trendy now. I mean, it's unbelievable what an absolute waste it is. But more importantly, like this whole economy has to come collapsing at any moment now because people are starting to realize, I think capitalists are starting to realize that nobody buys targeted ads. Nobody clicks on them and buys the thing in them. You just get it and you just keep scrolling,
right.
right?
Well, that's
Like,
actually a really good segue into our sponsor for today's podcast is actually Purple Mattress. No. Hashtag not sponsored.
do you hate going to the post office? I'm Mark Maron.
Squarespace.
Stamps.com.
This is just one. That was pretty good. That
Yeah,
was
thank
pretty
you.
good.
Hey, what the fuckers? Stamps.com over here.
Stamps.com. You know how I ship out all my stuff? Stamps.com.
Like Mark Maron had Obama on his podcast, and Mark Maron's two big questions were, so who are your guys? And the other one was, do you hate going to the fucking post office? And Obama's like, oh, let me be clear. I've never been to the post office. Use stamps.com.
All right, I gotta go. Gotta go, Mark.
So yeah, that's gonna be fun. I mean, Facebook already lost like a hilarious amount of value in one day because it turns out that when you spend money on security, you don't make profits, and then everyone gets mad at you.
Wait, say that again.
Facebook lost 119 something $billion in a day in the stock market, which is the biggest single day loss ever
Oh my
in the
gosh.
stock market.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because Zuckerberg was like, "Oh, well, profits are low this quarter because we had to spend all the money on security," which begs the question. So I guess you weren't spending any money on security before this.
Oh man. Jesus. Jesus, Ricky.
Jesus Christ. It made me laugh so much. I was like, oh, that's a really, really roundabout way to say, sorry, we weren't really paying attention at all. Oh, well.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say we should plug our project JWPB.
Oh, yeah, we should plug that shit. Well, actually, we'll plug it, but also pitch the idea since we're doing a tech themed show. We're going to do a pitch to get that lineup back together to do some original songs too, hopefully.
Yeah, man.
So whenever this is like John Wilkes Phone Booth is our pretend band that
Emphasis on pretend.
It's not pretend because it makes real music, but
Yeah.
the name is a joke. Me, Mike, our friend Justin, and a rotating cast, which now has just sort of become Brian from Yellow Rainbow, our friend Ben,
And Chris, right?
and Chris, obviously, the guitar wizard. Just meet in Justin's weird cabin in the woods like once a year and play and record a whole bunch of music, and it's pretty great. It's kind of folksy, a little experimental. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Where can people find that? Is it just at jwpb.bandcamp.com?
Yes, jwpb.bandcamp. That's it.
Right. And we're John Wilkes Phone Booth.
Yeah, that was one of Mike. This is a little behind the genius studio. Mike's got a note on his iPhone that's got about 100 potential band names on it, and we picked that one out at random.
The origins, man. We're giving away a lot of secrets.
Yeah, all the secrets are coming out now. Sorry.
It's actually my Evernote app.
That's why that's how they can afford a building. It's running on those band names.
It's running on those band names, man. Yeah, I'm glad we were able to get you on the pod, bro.
Well, hit me up whenever. I'm always down.
So that was my conversation with Tim Lampasona, longtime artistic collaborator and someone who lets me borrow all of his stuff all the time. So thank you, Tim. Appreciate you, my friend. You can check out our band, John Wilkes Phone Booth, at jwpb.bandcamp.com. And don't forget to send him pictures of all the bugs you find on Instagram at timbug417. This is Mike from 424recording.com. Godspeed, my friends. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and review the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to support the podcast, you can check out patreon.com/424recording. Appreciate you, my friends. And make sure you do something you want to do today, okay? We'll catch you on the flip-flop. Peace.